we're leveling the playing field. We're making it very accessible. We design every voice around how you describe your character.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to State of the Nation. We're in our we're getting close to the show, and this is one of our series where we're talking with a sponsor. Today we have from Spoken, Phil Marshall. How you doing, Phil?
I'm great, Joe. Good to be with you.
Yeah. So last year was your first year at Author Nation. We were excited to have you there. You had an amazing booth. If we had an award for best booth, you probably would have won it. You
Wow. All
Well,
right.
you guys said you're like matching outfits and like you came to play.
Yeah, the white members only jackets, I think, were a great touch.
Yeah, it would have you would have had at least an honorable mention. I don't. Um,
We'll try to live up to that again this year. You said it was our
Good.
first year at the show. It was also our first year of life as a company.
And it was our first year of the show, so that like
That's right. So look at
yeah,
us, arm in arm.
yeah. So what we want to help our authors understand is like what is it that spoken is all about. Prior to jumping on, you were kind of updating me, so like we're at a really seminal moment for your company with your coming out of beta, and let's just dump it on them. What is it that you're all about now?
Yeah. Well, I'm big on intuitive names, first of all. So I chose spoken, right? Just so, just so like 100 of the questions just go by the wayside, right? That's because that's what we do is we help indie publishing authors to create and publish great audio of their works. And my own journey brought me here as an author myself. My debut novel is going live in every format, including multi-voice audio from Spoken on September 12th. So I'm right there with your viewers on going through all of that process. And in that journey, because I am an audio only reader, I grew a great passion around what AI can do to support authors in getting great audio of their works out affordably, quickly, and giving them the ability to always, edit it, change it if they need to tweak the story, if they need to update, if they want to do multi-voice, giving them all of those capabilities. And so this last Friday, we went live with our V1, sort of arm in arm, our team holding on for dear life. Went live with our V1. We just had a press release a couple of hours ago, announcing some of our breakthroughs. And we are the AI audiobook company. So that is what Spoken does, and we're excited to share more at the show.
Awesome. So like specifically, what's the problem? Like, let's talk about the problem that's being solved here, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I think this will help, you know, somebody that's watching this understand kind of the like what was before. Like if I'm a debut author and I'm thinking about audio, what I faced, and then like what's possible now with spoken and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
model that you guys have.
Yeah, I was talking with somebody just a couple of days ago, a an author, and I told them about our pricing. So if you're a subscriber, it's $5 for every 5,000 words that you narrate, that you bring to life through narration. And they said, "Is that?" I must have misheard you, right? Is that a typo? Because what that means is that a 100,000 word novel would be about $100. And if you know anything about historical um, audiobook pricing and studio recording costs,
Mm,
with voice actors, who we still see as the gold standard on delivery, but it's just made it inaccessible. It's made it inaccessible, and that's why audio has always been an afterthought for most indie authors. And now, with audio racing ahead at more than 25% growth year over year, just this, blowing past, e-reader, ebooks and getting closer and closer to the benchmark set by print. Um, you can't you can't afford to treat audio as a second class citizen. You can't have
mm,
it be an afterthought. You need to deliver that to your readers, because a lot of them, especially younger ones, are going to be just like me, audio only readers.
yeah.
And so now. we're leveling the playing field. We're making it very accessible, and it's not just accessible. If you want a single narrator, that's on par with having a voice actor. I again say voice actors are still the premium and the gold standard. But you know what? You'll never be able to afford if you're especially if you're a speculative fiction author, you would never be able to afford a multi-voice or full cast recording. That'd be
Mm,
$15,000, $20,000, right?
yeah.
And for us, it's the same price as a single narrator. And so a lot of our users are choosing to do the multi-voice. It's new, it's different, it's interesting to listen to. It really brings all those characters live. And because we design every voice around how you describe your character. So my book, Taming the Perilous Skies, coming out on September 12th, is a hard sci-fi novel. I have over 100 speaking characters.
Wow.
And I just watched as the system generated those voice samples, just one character after another, da, 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 right? And I look and I listen to them. I'm like, oh my God, like that is my character, you know?
Mm,
I mean, it analyzes personality and it analyzes, tone and pacing and accent. Accents are key. I have people from all over the planet in my book. And so things like this, it just changes the playing field. It's accessibility, it's the ability to go and change that passage on a fly and just redeploy it. And now that Spotify has opened the floodgates, which I guess I should explain a little bit more about that.
well,
And that is,
before we get to that,
okay,
I
yep,
want to make sure we get back, we'll get on to distribution in a minute, but let's double click on this whole idea of like, so if I go into your platform and I've got a vision of what like, I want this to be multicast. I don't have 100 characters. I got 15. I have these voices in my head. I've had them with me for years. So it sounds to me from what I just heard that there's some type of like next level or layer of creativity where I can help craft what that audio experience is going to be.
yep.
You're smiling.
Yeah, it's because it is fun. It's you can design your narrator if you've got a single narrator. You can design your alternating narrators if you do dual. Or you can design every single character. I last night decided to switch up my Italian prime minister. I needed her to have a little bit fiery or more fiery voice, and so I switched it up. I made one change. It propagated across all of her passages in the novel, right?
Oh,
And boom,
wow.
updated. Thank you. So, so that's yeah, it's kind of magical, really.
Cool, cool. So, let's talk about distribution. I know you were going there. I just wanted to make sure that, like, because I know for
Yep.
some authors, you know, they'll see that as a pro or a con, right? Like, wow, I get this whole nother thing that I can create my world, right? I have another place, another touch point to like craft the way I envision this. Other people are going to be like, oh, that's another thing for me to do.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
so let's talk about distribution.
Yeah, so yeah, the way we view distribution is if an author wants to put their work up, maybe it's a debut work, maybe it's a teaser chapter, maybe it's a, short story in the same universe, something like that. If you want to put that on Spoken and share it for streaming for free, as a basically a lead,
Hmm.
a magnet to your works that are for sale on your storefront or on Amazon or Spotify or what have you, then that's great. And you can certainly do that. As far as the major distribution, though, we're now starting to work not only with individual authors, but also with those who work on their behalf. So these are small publishers or even larger distribution points, and we should have some announcements to make by Author Nation that we're very excited about on that
Awesome.
front. And so basically, what that allows is for the ingestion of the manuscript, the analysis of the characters, if you want to go to multi-voice or just your narrator, and then the generation of the audio, and then the retrieval and download of the audio in order to be able to put it out into your storefront, into BookFunnel, into Kobo, into now Spotify. As of August 1st, Spotify has opened the floodgates in a great moment of validation for AI audiobooks, and they allow digital narration. You just have to check a checkbox that says it includes digital narration. And so Spotify for Authors made a big move on that the same exact time that in audio split out and is now doing their thing as well. Very similar, perspective on AI narration, and so a lot of validation in the standard indie author distribution of audio
Hmm.
on Spotify and the in audio, which used to be Findaway distribution into the other platforms, and so it's seeing its day.
Oh, it's really interesting. So, there the I'm in a situation where I can then take these files and I can do with them what I want. Like, so if I'm trying to build visibility on a platform, there's Spotify, which has got their own discovery algorithm, and but then I
Exactly.
can also lean into like this sounds to me like if I was um you know, one of my if I was providing, say, short stories to my Patreon members. In the past, maybe I could just provide a short story, but now I can make it more accessible by
Yep.
creating a audio version and putting that in there, maybe making that another higher tier, whatever I might want to do. But I can,
Yeah.
how long does it kind of take to go through this process of let's say it's a 20,000 word short story. How long does it take to kind of get up in the system, load it, do this analysis, pick your characters, and
Yeah. So
get an
if
output?
sure. So if it's single narrator, that becomes very easy and very quick. Just, a matter really, you would count that in minutes, all the way from load to narration.
Okay.
If you're doing multi-voice for 20,000 word work, you're going to want to proof your voices. You're then going to want to listen to the story. You're going to want to make sure that the cohesion of the different voices is what you want. My goal at Spoken is to automate all of that so that it is perfect. And so help me God, we are going to do that. And yet today you're going to want to proof that. You may have to tweak some of the automations that we put in on spacing between the character dialogue passages and the emotional cues that we pass through. And so we do try to automate all that, but you're going to want to proof it. You're going to listen to it. You're going to want to tweak it. And so you should give yourself, for a 20,000 word work there, you should give yourself, a few hours to do that anyway.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, well, that makes sense. Like I think that anybody that isn't really familiar with audio is like, in the old day, like if you're paying for a narrator to narrate, you pay for a finished hour. They didn't take 1 hour to do that, right? Like there's the hour or longer that he took to record it, and then there's the production that happened after that. So um, just keep in mind that somebody has to listen through this stuff and make sure that it delivers on what you're looking for. Like there's always, even with live audio, there's always little weird things like pronunciation or
Yeah. Yeah. Pronunciation is its own. I mean, so we provide lexicon so you can just change it once, on something that needs to be pronounced a certain way and it'll change across the work. So
mm,
there are certain things. There's also other fun things too. Like that reminds me, like introduction, right? So you're used to hearing this is Audible.
mhm,
Well, the narrator you choose for your work is the one that we use to say made with spoken. And then we have a
mhm,
little audio jingle and it says your name, or your work's name and the author's name, but that's all in the narrator that you choose. If you want your main character to say those things,
mm,
um, then use your main character to say those things, right? So every time you hear made with spoken, da 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 dun dun dun, the da 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 dun 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 will always be the same, but the made with spoken will be whatever voice you want it to be in.
yeah,
And so
cool.
that's kind of a fun little difference, right?
Yeah, yeah. So we have the show in 80 something days. I haven't looked at the countdown late. Um, what do you hope people come to the your booth and your sessions, and like what's the kind of connection you want to have with authors, and what do you hope they come away with at Author Nation?
Yeah. So audio, as I said before, has always been an afterthought, right? Second class citizen. And so by the time automation gets here, I think the market is going to be at a point, and we are going to be at a point with our users and our product and the delivery of great audio, that the conversation is no longer about, oh, AI. I just don't know about that AI for narration, right? It's so we'll be beyond that. And what we'll be talking about is optimizations, right? Things that we're doing to optimize the automated delivery of perfect story, right? Like, what
Mhm.
does it mean to deliver perfect audio and the perfect story? What distribution works best? How can you put your short works on spoken to then lead to your other works? Like, what are successful authors now doing across that? So it's really more about tactics to optimize as opposed to this debate of should I, could I, what if, um,
Yeah, yeah, and I, our approach is just as it's always been is if you have issues with AI in whatever form it's being used, then don't use it and go do your thing. If you're interested in learning how it could potentially help your business, we're going to have you know, a conversation about that and understanding where it fits, is there going to be disruption? Of course, right? There's
Yeah,
always
so it's interesting. I'm always happy to engage with folks on helping them understand how those patterns are created between written word and human speech, conveyance of them. And when you actually kind of understand how those models are trained and all, you get a little bit less concerned about theft of copyrighted works, which I know is a big concern. But
Mhm.
I will say that even for those folks who are really skeptical, when they put their own personal voice on spoken and then they use their voice to speak their memoir, or especially for
Yeah,
nonfiction, or they use it for one of their characters, then all of a sudden it's more like, oh, well, that helped me to do something that I would have never, truly never been able to do. And now instead of sitting in front of a microphone and reading everything, out loud in my coat covered closet so that I have sound muffling, now I can just put it in once and load the words in and off it goes. So even for some of the most skeptical, that particular thing resonates.
yeah. I was doing a couple years ago where I was using text to voice of my own voice to turn my newsletters into audio files, and it was because fans asked, subscribers asked me, like, it would be nice to have an audio file of this because they would like to just list my email they would rather listen to when they're walking their dog. And it's like, okay, well, now I can do that. So it's like that's of service of my audience. But then the other side of this thing is um, when portions of the market get opened up, but because they were unopened before, just because of the cost, right? So the example of I've written an ebook, okay, and it did okay, but I know my market well enough that it doesn't justify me spending $3,000 on a live audio. But I do see that if I could, it cost me say $100 or $200, whatever, that there's a return on investment that isn't 8 years long, right? Like, so,
Exactly.
so now I can do
That's
that,
pretty
right?
that's pretty easy ROI calculation right there.
But that's a lot of times what authors are looking at is like, oh, I write these books and they do okay in ebook, and I'm making a living doing this, but I wouldn't have any money left if I went and did all this in audio. I'd love to, but
Yep.
I wouldn't see the return in a timely manner. I can't put the money into this. Yes, I would get it back, but it would be 4 or 5 years from now. So if
Right.
I can now do it and test that market out and build that market, right? Like there's things that are going to be opportunities for people. And um, in essence, that's what disruption is, right? Is when people have new tools and they figure out new ways to apply them and it unlocks value or creates new markets. right?
Yep, you got
So,
it. You,
yeah.
you're a great spokesman for this. I mean, Joe, I mean, really.
Well, I think, and this gets back to what got me into this industry is 10 years ago and seeing like what a phenomenal opportunity there's going to be to unlock the world's potential around IP, all the daydreaming that's been going on for, hours and hours being turned into story and then delivered to people. It's amazing amounts of content that people could make money off of. And the tools are coming faster. Back then I didn't even imagine something like this. Like there was 5 years ago, you didn't imagine as an indie author that you could really go into audio, right? Like
Yeah,
it,
things are really moving quickly. And yet audio as just a modality of consuming story,
yeah.
right? It's just big, It's really big. But if you want to see kind of next generation stuff, go to spoken.press. We're now running aggressively running some ads and you'll see one or a couple on the site that are just fun. I mean, and when you see what tech can do now to take great audio, and
Hmm.
even sync it up with somebody's lips, now all of a sudden, it starts to get really interesting. We produce trailers for a number of our authors, just on their behalf because we like, that, they've got some renown or they, want our help
Yeah.
in creating some of those assets. And so, trailers for the books, for the audiobooks, or for your standard books is something that we're doing more and more as well. So we'll probably share more about that in November when I see you.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Um, One last thing before we kind of wrap up here is if I got a half hour this week, what should I do to learn more about how to do this? Or how could, if I gave you an hour, gave spoken an hour of my time in the next week or so, how can I turn that into some kind of value?
Yeah, well, just, we'll give you 5,000 words off the bat for free as a new registrant. And so if you've got a short work that you're interested to see how those characters might come alive, that's a great thing to do, and it won't cost you a dime.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what'll be interesting is, Author Nation 2026, and we're having these conversations again, and we see all the things that will be revealed and how you know the things that end up surprising you and I like that because there's going to be stuff that happens that like we can't perceive, right? It's just that perfect mix of this group of authors and getting their hands on these tools and like, hey, look at what I'm doing with it, right? And you're like, oh
Yeah.
my god, I never thought you could do
Yeah.
that, right?
Exactly. It's all about bringing story to life, right? It's to take that creative idea, that character, that lovable, scenario that you wrote in chapter 8, and just bringing it to more people who can enjoy that.
Awesome. Well, Phil, um, let people know if they're one not going to come to the show. Unfortunate for them, but like there are a few people that aren't going to come. And for those that can't wait until the show and need to know more about this right now, where should they be going? And
Yeah. Just spoken.press.
all
You'll
right,
see everything you need right there.
yeah, and it's
And you're going to
spoken
remember the
dot
name, right?
press.
Spoken. You're not going to
Yeah,
forget that one.
yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, it was great talking to you, and I can't wait to see you in a couple months and see what you guys have. All your little secrets you finally reveal. I know what it's like because we've got a ton of them too. Like
Yeah.
it's
Well,
sitting on stuff and you just have to
we don't
wait
we
for
don't talk
Dave.
about all of them. I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
probably talk about more of them than I should. But if you find me at the bar in Vegas, that's probably the right time to get those stories out of me.
There you go. There you go. All right. Good talking to you again, Phil.
Thanks, Jim.